Hey everybody, Nathan Ronen, CFA here with an update. This update is actually to answer questions that I get from the CFA Level 3 candidates. So if you're a Level 3 candidate in the CFA program, you're taking your exam or you just passed your Level 2 exam, here's a question that I get very often and I'd like to share it with you and my response to it. Continue to subscribe to my YouTube channel by pressing the subscribe button and the notifications bell so that you can continue to receive these updates as I create them on a weekly or bi-weekly basis and post them to YouTube and other forms of social media. Nathan, I'm thinking of taking Level 3, or Nathan, I am in the Level 3 program. Where do I start? Where do I begin? This is a very common question that I get from candidates who are moving into the Level 3 program or in the Level 3 program, and they're sort of overwhelmed by the pathways, and they're also overwhelmed once they select the pathway, what to do. Because, in all honesty, the CFA Level 3 program is the most disorganized of the 3 levels, and material is presented all over the place in different books, in different sections, and it can be very, very frustrating to study for the Level 3 exam. Again, nothing is rocket science, nothing is, beyond the pale of understanding. It's just when you try to put everything together and you see them jumping around, from one reading to another reading without giving context, it can be very frustrating to candidates. And a lot of times, study notes follow the curriculum. Third-party study notes follow the curriculum in order to not stay out of order, and they can also be at Level 3 not very helpful. Now, I know that this is probably a little bit different than what you encountered in Level 1 or Level 2, especially Level 1 where everything is much more organized and it's more factual. But here in Level 3, there's a lot more subjectivity, not only in the materials, in the questions that they ask, in the answers, but also in the exam. There's a lot of subjectivity involved where you're going to have to make judgments. You may not like the response that you see in the answer key, but you're going to need to learn how to give the graders what they're looking for on exam day. So let's not jump ahead and say, okay, where do I start, Nathan? First thing to do is to select your pathway. Personally, I think the pathway that all candidates should be doing at this point in time, until the others get some kind of traction, is to do the traditional portfolio management pathway, regardless of whether you are in private wealth management, whether you are in the private markets, or whether you're looking to be an equity analyst, a fixed income analyst, or a portfolio manager. Whatever your aspirations are, at the end of the day, you're in Level 3. You're looking to get the CFA designation. And when you do, it's just going to say CFA. You're not going to put anything else pretty much on your resume. Nobody's going to ask you which pathway you did. It's not going to say it on your charter, private markets pathway. And by and large, 70 to 75% of the people taking the exam select the portfolio management pathway as of current statistics. 20% or so is for the private markets and about 5 or 6% for the private wealth management. So does that mean that if you select one of the lower percentages, you have a higher percentage of passing? No, because there's nothing stipulating that they have to pass 45% of each pathway or 50% of each pathway. That's just not the way to look at it. You have more resources available to you in the marketplace all around for the traditional portfolio management pathway. And that's what I think everybody should stick with until the other 2 pathways, the private markets and the private wealth management, have more traction. Besides, why would you want to buy mock exams, for example, for a pathway from third-party providers where there's no real history of exams from the CFA Institute in that pathway? So I would just do the portfolio management pathway. That's my first suggestion. You want to do the others, that's your choice. Now, the second thing is, once you start with your pathway, the next thing I would do is I would actually say, okay, I understand that this exam is different from Level 2. Whatever Level 1 and Level 2 I succeeded isn't necessarily going to work at Level 3 because the Level 3 structure of the exam is very different. 50% of my success on the exam is going to depend on how I do on those constructed responses or essays. The CFA books are not giving me really any true guidance. So what do? I don't want to put 50% of my exam points on the table and just figure out on exam day, did I answer the questions correctly? Or, what do I do here? I'd rather get mentoring and guidance right now by somebody who's not only taken the exam, but has experience with the exam, also grades exams for candidates, and, can give me insight into how to answer the constructed response questions. I think that this is very important and very valuable. Anybody can really go over content, but I think that when you work with me, it's not just going over the content. I'm going to go over the content in a very different order from what's presented in the curriculum readings for your pathway, because I need you to see how everything is structured together. And in my lectures, I have 50 constructed response questions where I actually solve them with you. And I show you what the graders would be looking for, how to answer it, how to get the maximum points. I also write out the answer so you could see why, as a candidate, I would get some of the points, all of the points, or none of the points. That's something that I would actually be starting out with, learning from the beginning, how to answer the constructed response questions while you're learning the content, rather than saying, okay, a couple weeks before the exam, I'm going to do some mocks like I did level 1 and level 2, and everything will fall into place. It won't. You need time to digest and learn how to address the different types of constructed response command words, how much to write, how much not to write. This baloney, just write bullet points and you get all the points. Again, and also look at who's guiding you. Does the person have a charter? Does the person have any grading experience? Do they actually create their own constructed response questions? These are things you should be evaluating, and not just price. Price is important up to a point, but you need to make sure that you're getting the correct guidance on how to answer that. That is what you can be doing, or the first step that you should be doing is using the curriculum and using a prep provider or a third-party provider that can actually help you, like myself, to not only understand the content, but actually to apply it. That's the best way to start out. And if you're interested, you could check out my website. Happy to help you out. Take a look at some of my sample, videos of how I teach. Take a look at my offerings, whatever. Again, this is a pitch, absolutely, because I do want you to work with me, because the bottom line is many of you don't do your calculations correctly for what the cost of taking the exam is. The cost of retaking an exam is not limited to the registration fee. There's also a cost to your time to restudy, refocus, re-energize, redo everything, because you can't just go and knock it out a second time without studying again. So there is that element of studying and your hourly wage associated with that. So keep that in mind. Retaking is not a solution or a panacea. What you want to do is you want to pass this on your first time, make the investment up front, work with a mentor, work with me, and let's get you through the level 3 exam. That's what you can be starting out to do right now to make an effective exam in February or August of any year, and not having to fall into the thing of, I should have, gotten some guidance on how to do the constructed responses. My scores were so low. Okay, so that's what I would offer to you in terms of starting out, and we will lay out a study plan when you join me, and you will see how I guide you through the constructed responses, and you will go into the exam day with a lot more confidence. I highly recommend the premium package that I have, along with the personal service model, where you have access to me for questions and my time and all that, and a study plan, and we will get you going, and I will be committed to helping you to pass this, and I think you'll be very happy. That's what I would do right now as a level 3 candidate who's starting out or is considering doing the level 3 program. Thanks for listening.